What is going on, everybody? Welcome into the DGD Podcast. I'm your host, Robert Reynolds. Got my guy over here to my right, the birthday boy, Israel. What is going on, big dog? How are you tonight, man?
Oh man, I'm blessed, man. A half a century, I made it. So that's what else can I ask for? The big 5-0.
Be careful. You might say that too loud. Somebody might get freaked out and spooked. But either way, now we got a loaded show tonight, man. We're going to be talking breakout predictions. We're going to be making breakout candidate predictions and the Super Bowl, right? Chiefs, Eagles, and a bunch of Georgia Bulldogs or former Georgia Bulldogs. So we're going to talk about that. So let's get started. But first things first, the show is brought to you by our friends over at Alumni Hall. Guys, Alumni Hall, you know them, tried and true. Even if, listen, hoodies, drinkware, everything you want, they've got it. All licensed, and it's all dogs. Make sure to go to our website, dgdpodcast.com/alumni hall, and shop. Anything you get when you place an order using our link, 8% will go to the Classic City Collective. Make sure to use our link, dgdpodcast.com/alumni hall. Thank you, Alumni Hall, for supporting the show. With that being said, let's jump straight into this. Israel, 2024 was kind of one of these seasons where it just didn't live up to the standard that Georgia, was used to, right?
Mhm.
So we move forward to 2025. Georgia loses a lot of guys. There's a potential you could see more that, maybe more than the 2021, 2022 coming out potentially. So we've got to talk about this. All right, breakout candidates. I want to start with this right here. I'm going to give you the first go. Who is your prime breakout candidate for 2025?
Prime breakout candidate. I'm gonna first have to go with Nate Frazier.
Okay.
I,
Not
I'll
mad
have to
about
go
that at
with Nate
all.
Frazier.
Now, why do you say Nate Frazier? I'm just curious to hear the logic why that's your go-to breakout candidate.
And the reason why I'm gonna bring Nate up first is because when I think about the way that Georgia runs their offense traditionally, and I know we use one or two backs most of the time, but the thing with Nate is his talent, and him actually leading us in rushing this year was kind of like, I know we had some things with ETN that, we missed a game or two or whatever, and some injuries here and there, but it's just with Nate, he's too talented, man. He's gonna be the breakout. Him being RB1, getting a bulk of the carries, I see him as really turning into a star.
Yeah, I think to your point, right, with ETN going, going to the draft, Georgia needs that. Georgia needs that bell cow running back. Dude, we were not good at running the ball. It was not good at all running the football last
Hmm.
year. That cannot happen again. And we saw flashes of Nate Frazier last year, but I think we need to see that more consistently. And honestly, if he is the breakout candidate, it means that he's asserted himself as that kind of running back, right? The one that we thought, last year, even though through, battling through the inconsistencies at times, right? The drop problem, fumble problems, things like that, which obviously another off season that should help out right there. Georgia needs that guy, and I think you're onto something when it comes to Nate Frazier. I think he can be that guy. I could easily see that being a breakout candidate. I'm going to go my first one. I'm looking at Quintavious Johnson over on the defensive
Mm,
side of the ball, and I
mm,
think it's because Georgia is arguably pretty thin at the edge position, and so he's
mm,
going to be thrust into a playing role. And
mm,
you look at the defensive line, you've got guys like Christian Miller and You've got Nnamdi Boko, somebody that you might be able to talk about there too. But when it comes to the edge play, you lose Chaz Chambliss, you lose Jalen Walker, you lose Michael. And so that means there's a big, shoes to fill. I think Quintavious can do that. I mean, he's got the physical measurables and everything. And really, if you watched him play, I was thoroughly impressed with how he played. I really was. I thought he played really well when he did play. First time I saw him on the field, I was like, "Who the hell is that?" And then I realized, oh yeah, that's Quintavious. So I'm looking at Quintavious as my candidate there.
Okay.
I think you're going to need him to be that guy and take that step up. That's just my thoughts. I mean, what are your thoughts on Quintavious, or do you see somebody else along that defense that needs to be that kind of breakout guy?
I actually like that pick with Quintavious because we heard so much buzz, all year last year with him, and then you also hear from the other players. I mean, players have came up and spoken so highly of him. So, when you hear that from upperclassmen when they speak about a true freshman, and they're saying he's up next, so they're seeing something that we are just hearing about, So yeah, but somebody else young that I'm also looking to I'm keeping my eye on this year is Joseph Jonah Ajayi.
I felt like that was coming.
Yeah, it's I mean, I feel like he has to be maybe not like playing at that elite level yet, but in between. I'm thinking we need to see some growth from him this year.
Well, keep in mind, you've talked about him being a breakout guy. I would say it's a comeback player potential.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, now, to be fair, I think both can be true, right? I think both can be true because you can make a comeback and still break through, right? So both could be true. But I think with him coming off that injury, I think there's going to be a heavy, demand for him to make that kind of step. And you hope that he had learned, mental reps and things like that at that point because, as you're rehabbing and everything, obviously you're not able to take the physical in-game reps. So this, obviously looking ahead, this spring is going to be crucial for him, right? I mean, even as much as I'd say the winter workouts that are going on, right? It's key for him. Make sure you're in game shape. Make sure, working out on working extra, right? Doing your things, learning your craft, and building your bag of tricks, right, for pass rush moves or whatever. Our guy Brendan here saying his breakout candidate is Jordan Hall. I like that pick. I like that pick. I think we've seen flashes with Jordan Hall for sure. I think the key though is the consistency, staying healthy too. I think as we move forward, through February, and once we start getting into spring, you're going to hear a lot of that. I think staying healthy is going to be one of the biggest concerns that Georgia is going to have to face this offseason. I really think so, especially through the spring. Because there's a lot of guys that are getting replaced along the defense, right, due to them leaving, going to the draft. And there's not a lot of experience behind them. The athletic ability, the talent is completely there. The thing I'm kind of looking at more so, these guys are going to need all the reps they can get. And I think Jordan Hall, to Brenna's point, I think Jordan Hall is a prime candidate to take advantage of those and really solidify yourself. I think if you put Jordan Hall and, Christian Miller solidifying that defense up there, you're not going to see, in my opinion, you're not going to see the 2021 Georgia plan of mint defense. I don't see that this year. I just want to let that be known. You don't have the bodies to do that. More so the size. But you've got some disruptors, and they need to stay healthy. And I think Jordan Hall's a good call there by Brendan. I really do.
Yeah, I want to know how his foot is, though, is how healthy he's going to be.
Yeah, I think that's something you got to just kind of monitor as the spring comes along, too. But, yeah, I think you're looking at a lot of people that are really going to be kind of monitoring their health, really, on coming back and making sure they're full go. I would have to say that too. I think I want to see this a breakout. He's not going to start, but I want to see Justin Williams break out when given the opportunity. I think that'll be a very interesting pick there. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm thinking he could play the Chris Cole role that Chris Cole played, this past year. He should be in that range right now.
Yeah,
this year coming up.
Now, my question would be: Is Justin going to play who's going to fill in behind CJ? Who would you think would do that? Because I think you look at the linebackers, right? You still got Raylan Wilson and you got CJ Allen, but after that, I think that's where it's you're looking at guys like Chris Cole. You're looking at guys like Justin Williams, Chris Jones might be there. Where does Zayden Walker fit into this?
Yeah.
How much run does he get? Right. For me, I think Justin Williams, honestly, I think you need to sit here and put him. Well, see, that's the problem. I think you put him in behind Raylan Wilson.
Yeah.
Because
I was about to say that too.
Because if you look if we're envisioning 2024, right? You had CJ, you had Raylan, then you also had Smile, right? I think Chris Cole kind of fits in with Smile. We saw that in 2024. But I think with Justin Williams, and if he can fit in behind, or maybe if he rotates in, I think you see that too. If CJ comes out, the question is who. Maybe you see, for instance, if CJ comes out, I think you move Raylan in there, right, to beat, because he's that guy. He's the oldest guy. He's got the most experience there. I think you see that kind of rotation around, right, where you have Raylan Wilson there taking over CJ, and then you insert Chris Cole there, and then also you would have Chris Cole there, kind of playing where Smile is. I think that was a seamless transition when Smile was down last year. So, I mean, the linebacker. This is a first world problem, completely a first world problem. How are we going to rotate our 5-star then? You know what I'm saying? It's just a crazy thing right there. I'm gonna ask you again. I'm gonna ask you, and who's another one? We've talked about some of these guys, but who are some other ones that you think that might be a breakout candidate? These are always fun to see.
I'm hoping. This is who everybody's waiting to hear on that defense is Ellis Robinson.
That is a good choice. That's definitely a good choice. I think you're looking at what Daniel Harris probably, or no, excuse me, Dalen Everett. I'm sorry, Dalen Everett, right? Going to be that guy. Shut a lot of people up last year. To be fair.
Oh yeah, he did.
To be fair, so you look at him as being the number one, and that's okay. Right, that's okay. But I think when it comes to that cornerback 2 spot, I think it's going to be all out war. Yeah. And you're looking. I think it's more than a 2-way race at this point. I really do. I think you got to include DeMello Jones into this. I really do.
Yeah, you do. You do. Yeah.
It might. I'm not. I'm going to say this, but I think there's a possibility you could see DeMello play earlier. I think he's more ready from a mental standpoint. We know Ellis is physically gifted. We know what he's capable of. We've seen that, right? I thoroughly enjoyed watching Ellis and DeMello on the field at the same time. Completely did. My question is, with Coach Dante and Coach, with Kirby, what's their role? Is the cornerback 2 spot really up for grabs, or are they going to go with a seniority style where you have, Daniel basically trying not to lose the job? Part of me thinks that's where the situation goes. But I do get this concern that if Ellis doesn't play, or start, I think he'll play a lot regardless. I do. But if he doesn't start, what does that mean for him and his time at Georgia? Right? Because with a guy like him, there's no reason for him to sit the bench. I feel like he needs to start.
I think Kirby and them know that he can't sit on the bench another year. He's got to have some significant playing time because a recruit like him, you got people pulling, trying to get him to, they tampering with him and, it's just things like that. So for him, even with Daniel Harris, I'm going to say this, and I don't actually think he has it locked down. I know he knows the scheme a little bit better than the rest, but as far as talent wise, I don't actually think he's the best guy, talented wise. I just don't.
Yeah, it's tricky. Ellis did some things, even as a freshman, that last year we didn't see out of the rotation that we had at corner. And it really starts with tracking the football. He felt comfortable tracking the football. We saw that. The pick that he had that didn't stand.
Yeah.
I think that was the perfect telltale sign that, he was ready, or, like he had the flashes to be an impact player.
Mhm.
However, you saw at times he was uncomfortable. He wasn't ready. We saw that. And
Mhm.
as a freshman playing corner, you expect that, right? There's some growth spurts there. It's understandable. But I think moving into the sophomore year here, I think his growth it's key for him.
Mhm.
This spring is crucial for him, getting on the field and making the most out of the reps that you're given. Because one of the things that the staff does excellent job at is making sure that the reps are there for everybody. Right? Spring is the only time where you're going to get an even workload of reps. So you're just firing off rep after rep after rep after rep after rep as fast as humanly possible.
Mhm.
You have to make the most of that, and you have to make a move, right? Because Daniel Harris, he's going to be playing, but
Oh
toward the
yeah.
end of last season, it felt as if once he won that job from Julian Humphrey, that there was some complacency that set in. And I think one of the things that he's got to understand is there's no room for complacency right now with those two guys behind him. I just can't see if you've let it set in, you're cooked.
Mhm.
And you just can't let the complacency when you've got the talent of an Ellis Robinson and honestly DeMelo Jones. I feel like people almost forgot about him, but that was a huge mistake. Huge mistake.
Yeah. I mean, even Evans, I don't know how far he is behind some of the other
I
guys.
think
Yeah.
Andre Evans, I'm curious to see where he falls into line. I know you've got now more of a safety situation, right?
Mhm.
But, depending on what they want to do with the star, right? You've
Mhm.
got the transfers, right? You've got Maddox, you've got Zion Branch, right? You've got these guys coming in to play star. Is there a situation where you could see Ellis play in and then maybe a Daniel Harris play star to get reps? Who knows? I think we'll have to wait and see what happens in spring. But I think Kirby and that staff are going to find ways to get their best players on the field. Just have to.
Yeah, they're gonna have to this year. I mean,
Speaking of making plays, my breakout candidate going to the offensive side of the ball. Give me Zach Branch. Give me Zachariah.
yeah, you
Give me
got to take
Zachariah
that.
Branch.
Yeah.
I just get this feeling that if we can utilize him the right way, he has the potential. I say the potential. I'm not saying he will, but he has the potential I think to be 1,000-yard guy
Yeah. Yeah.
if
Most
used
definitely.
properly. If used
Mhm.
properly, I think one of my main things for me to see is just how twitchy he is in space.
Mhm.
Because I feel like if we get the USC Zachariah Branch that shows out with twitch and just explosiveness, I think you see the difference in how much of a difference I should say his playmaking ability in space, making guys miss. It was much needed last year. We didn't have that. You look at guys like Arian Smith, just couldn't make that first guy miss. Dylan Bell, kind of the same way.
Mhm.
If if Zachariah Branch is able to make guys miss, I think he's more than just a screen guy, by the way, too.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can make guys miss, if you're running a screen and with the blocking that I think Georgia can provide, there's no reason why we cannot be making more explosive plays and utilize him as our running game, as an extension of the running game, I should say. And honestly, so far, I know it's not spring camp or anything, but it does sound like he is as advertised. And I think that's something that should be noted.
Yeah. That's why I'm waiting. I'm just, I'm excited about the spring and just to see, how all of this gels together with whoever the quarterback is, Stockton or Puglisi, or, it's just I wanted to ask you this though, Rob. Do you think that this receiving core that we have now, what do you rate it in the Kirby era?
You talking about the 25 or the 24?
Oh no, this one coming up now.
Well, honestly, it's a little bit too early. I think you're looking on paper perspectives, right?
But I'm saying, like, coming into any year that we ever came in, how excited are you about this group compared to the other years?
Well, for me, I'm excited, but I think I've been bitten enough to tamper the expectations, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
This time last year, we were hyped up.
Mm-hmm.
And then, obviously Kobe Young situation happens, rah-rah situation. All these things happen. And it kind of just derails your expectations and your predictions, right? So to answer your question, I think for me, when I look on paper, we have the bodies and the niche type, right? Those bodies have the niches that you need, right? They fit those roles that you need. We did not have a true X receiver last year. There's a potential. You got two now.
Mm-hmm.
I think Noah Thomas is your X. I think, if he needs to take a break, I think you could honestly slide in Colby Young if he is reinstated, which I don't see why not. Yeah. But I think you've got two big-bodied receivers now. That's not including other guys, like if you really want to include them, Talon Taylor and C.J. Wiley. You could look at those guys, but you've also got Zachariah Branch. Zachariah Branch has got that speed and elusiveness, right? You still got Dylan Bell. Now the question is whether he plays receiver or does he move to running back and try to be utilized there, And you look at the 5 receivers in the 25 cycle. Each of those guys, I think, will play a role. But I just look at the bodies, and I think you have what you need, and I think honestly you have more than just one of the bodies that you need, right? Like I said, last year you had, the rah-rah situation. So you bring in Kobe Young. Kobe Young goes down. Now you have no true X. It shows.
Mm-hmm.
To me. So I'm excited about it. I just want to make sure that the guys that are in, one, make it through healthy and make it without, distractions. If you can eliminate the distractions in the off season and stay healthy, then I'll feel a lot more confident moving forward. Especially, it's just waiting for G-Day. I think people are going to be excited to see that too.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting to see the packages and everything because, we've talked about the receiving core, but we didn't even mention the tight ends and their receiving abilities too. So the amount of weapons that we have, it should be something that Bobo should not have an issue with when it comes to personnel and scheming things. You have the bodies to create mismatches if you really want to. You've got the speed. Now the question is, which receiver is going to create that space? Because not a lot of space creation was happening last year.
No, it wasn't.
Who's going to be that guy? We got spoiled with Lat McConkey. Who is going to be that guy that can, you've got the 50-50 balls that we need to focus on too. But who's going to be able to create separation on critical downs to sustain drives while catching the ball, might I add? That's my question. So I'll spin this question back to you. What about you? How are you feeling about this receiving core.
Well, as far as like what we brought in with Noah Thomas and who else? Oh yeah, and Zach. It's just what everything else with Nitro. I mean, I like it. I really do. I really like it this year because we have guys that I feel that can. We got the 50-50 ball guys now with Kobe and Noah. Those 50-50 balls because we were actually throwing 50-50 balls to guys that weren't 50-50 guys. They just weren't.
Yeah, you saw a lot of that. I think another name that we haven't even mentioned yet, Israel, is Nitro Tuggle.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that, and we've had these discussions before, one of the things that I was excited for him to see was that against Tennessee, his release looked
Oh
different
yeah,
than everything we
yeah.
had. And I know that's not everything, but I think his ability to his release and being able to kind of create that space off his release is something that I think you have to capitalize on this year. You
And
just have to.
I'm wondering what role is he gonna play to be. I mean, where are they gonna put him with what they got coming in?
Yeah, no, I think that's a very good question to kind of pose,
Mm-hmm.
just simply because you bring in Noah Thomas, you've got Talon Taylor 5-star, so and Zachariah Branch. Theoretically, you've got 2 5-stars there with Zachariah and Talon, but
Mm-hmm.
but even then, right? You're sitting there looking at it. He hits the portal or enters the portal and then takes his name back out.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of know, you expect his role to be more defined. Now, how much of an opportunity will he be given? That's the key. I expect him to work more for it. I think he's going to get more playing time, but he's going to have to put the work in and make sure he doesn't get passed up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and see and I'm glad you brought that up because the spring is gonna see this portal thing ain't over with yet. Because the spring, depending on how they feel coming out of spring, will determine a lot too. It's going to determine like, do he feel like he has a chance to actually get some significant playing time, or is he
Yeah.
still one of those guys that have to wait his turn?
Well, I think another thing too, what really stung last year was not being able to rotate nearly as much. If you notice, like we didn't
Hmm.
rotate much at all compared to what we typically did, and I think
Hmm.
that's just not enough trust with the receivers that we had.
That's exactly what it was because we had all those drops and they still weren't playing those
And it
guys.
wasn't just like I was about to say, you had that right there. That was, if you needed a spark when you had these drops, generally speaking, you rotate somebody in because you saw what happened when we had last year. You had multiple people get hit with this. Whereas, for instance, when Lad McConkey went through this, right? Lad wasn't perfect. Lad went through this.
I
But
remember the drops.
we had a situation where you had a Marcus Rosemy and you had a Dylan Bell and you had these other guys that stepped up, and executed. And it really alleviated it, and it kind of put his drop issue on the back burner until he got his confidence back up. And then once he got his confidence back up, the rest was history. So I'm looking to see about that too, because last year was very concerning to me when you see the drops that we had. Now, to be fair, after the drops occurred, a lot of it was punts after. It wasn't another opportunity to complete a pass. So you had to wait to, you know what I'm saying? Like there was a lot of waiting between the next offensive snap. I'm not saying every time, but if you notice, a lot of the times the drops were occurring, third downs, critical third downs. And that shut down and stopped drives. And it kind of led to the I guess you could say the ineptitude of the offense. This year, I'd like to say that goes away, right? But how much trust do you have in the bodies that you have there? If for some reason someone starts seeing a drop problem, raise its head back up, are we going to rotate out? or are you just going to try to keep shooting like a shooter's mentality? You just shoot yourself out of the slump. What's Georgia going to do? I think that's a key question with that receiving core moving forward this year. I would have to say that's got to be one of the key questions and what to look for. Now, I got to ask you this. This breakout candidate is going to, I think it'll drive the team as far as it'll go. My question is this. Would you consider Gunnar Stockton being a breakout candidate?
Oh yeah, of course. Whoever the quarterback is going to be a breakout candidate. Yeah, it does. Whoever they start, if it's Gunnar, if it's Puglisi, whoever it is, you're going to see a little struggles here and there, but it's still going to be a breakout candidate.
Yeah, no, I was thinking that. Yeah, listen, I know a lot with it when it comes to Gunnar Stockton. As with any starting quarterback, you're going to have your pockets of your fans. You got the deep loyalists,
Yeah,
and you've got the folks that don't want to see anything related to him on the field.
exactly.
So please understand when I say that this is a normal quarterback situation at the University of Georgia. I'm just here to tell you that I think Puglisi has star written over him.
Yeah, and we've had these discussions before about, bringing in that NFL guy, what we miss, having in the offense. I mean, we thought we had it in Beck, and Beck still may be the NFL guy, but just what we have on the roster now. I know Gunnar Stockton's talented, but when you look at Puglisi and just the way he moves, the way the ball comes out of his hand, everything.
It's different.
It's just different, man.
I will say this. To your point, my opinion and my experience as a quarterback leads me to wonder whoever wins over the locker room the best will be your starter.
I like that.
It will be your starter. You seen, and we both saw this, when Gunnar was playing, to me, they played harder.
Mm-hmm.
So you have that situation there. And it seems like the roster and the team, the team loves Gunnar. Now, can the same be said for Puglisi? I would maybe say it, maybe not as much because of just tenure. But I'm with you. I think Puglisi will do some things that are going to completely shock some people if given an opportunity.
Yeah, I believe that.
I do. Jay Shipes here. Jay Shiesty saying Gunnar. I'm not. Listen, I'm going to go on the record now and say that I want whoever starts at quarterback to be as successful as possible because we're going to need it. You're going to need it. You're going to need it. So I want both of them to do well. Being serious.
Yeah.
Whoever, honestly, I would love to see a true competition in the spring. Think we kind of know what's about to happen though.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, and I've said this before, but I actually believe that for Puglisi to start, he's just going to have to actually just pull away. If it's close, they're going to ride with Gunnar because he's the upperclassman.
The familiarity within the system.
Yeah, within the system too. Yep, exactly.
Yeah, Jay Shiesty stand. They both are gunslingers. Yes, and they're in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and I think you've seen Gunnar play in high school a lot.
Yeah, I have.
He did some things at that level, and even again, even in the games that we played, right? We saw him against Notre Dame. He made some throws, and I mean throws.
Yeah.
In high school, we saw him throw to parts of the field comfortably that safeties were not expecting to hit, right? Mm-hmm. At the collegiate level, especially in the SEC, you start to realize that those parts of the field are even covered still. So it's a little bit different. So you have to be on cue and you have to be able to sit there and put, put the ball into windows. And that was something that checked the box for me against Notre Dame, the potential to do it, right? We know he can zip the pass in there, right? And Jay is not 100. He is not wrong at all. We've seen him just fire that fucker in there. Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
But when you can put it in windows like that, down the field vertically, you have to take that seriously. And you have to take that into account. Because that was just something that we weren't really sure what we were going to see, right? There was a good feeling you could have seen some, you could have seen some running in there, but at the same time, you see a lot of comeback routes to kind of just like let him throw the ball. How much layering of the football is going to be done? Maybe not as much with Gunner. I think that's more of a Puglisi thing, even with the arm talent there, like the arm strength. I think his arm talent is a little bit better in regards to layering and placement. But again, both of these guys are runners. I will say this. Gunner's style, if not changed or manipulated, poses a concern that Puglisi will have to be ready to.
Yeah, because Gunner is like he likes contact. He think he tough, man. He was like that in high school though. It wasn't
Oh
no
no, I
sliding.
saw him play some. Yeah, I definitely saw him do some some bully type shit in high school. Especially when the one game that I got to watch was Raven versus Prince Ave, and I thought that was a really good game.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
But then when it gets to the SEC, you see guys like Makuba hitting like that, and it's like, hey, this is next level type football. Like, hopefully Bobo works on him a little bit and teaches him to slide in the offseason. It's gonna preserve him.
Yeah,
Just listen, when it comes to quarterbacking, man, you've got to preserve yourself for long term. Slide, get down. You know what I'm saying? Look at Jackson Dart. Look at Jaden Daniels. I mean, their style of play is their style of play. But how many times when Jaden was at LSU that second year did we see just absolute body shots? It's just like, how is this? How is he getting up from this? Like, dude, get down. So there's a chance that you could see both quarterbacks this season. Now, is that beneficial to Georgia? Don't know. But I would prefer. What was that?
I think depending on Puglisi's execution of the offense during spring and summer, they're gonna. I believe that they might play two, just depending on how close Puglisi is to like really battling for the job, because you hear a lot of buzz about him, and it's a lot of buzz, man, about how he's progressing in the offense. So we'll see. We just will see. We're gonna see.
No, yeah, I think that's 100% the key. I mean, I think it kind of leaves us a lot of questions ahead of G-Day, right? Obviously, you hope that everybody stays healthy, but at the same time, if you're able to see these guys go at G-Day, that's going to be one situation. I will say this, though, too. Since we're talking way too far down the line and into the 25 season, with the amount of home games that we have, if we can't get him on the field and let him operate the offense, kind of similar to what happened with Stetson and Carson, if we can't allow that to happen, we've got some big problems. Big problems. And that is just something you cannot have. I want to ask you this question here. If you had to choose the breakout captain, I'm going to call this breakout captain. The breakout captain, you can do, if you want to do this, you can do either one. You can do one offense, one defense, or just one in general. Your call. Breakout captain candidate. Who's going to break out as a team leader, as a captain, and kind of? I want to get your thoughts on where your brain is with that.
Breakout captain. I'm going to say this on defense, and a lot of people will probably overlook this one. But to me, the person who I feel like it needs to be on defense, and this one might kind of shock you a little bit, and then again, it might not. But I think it's Everett. I think he needs to step up this year to be that. He needs to be that. Him, I mean, you usually get it from the linebackers. somebody from the linebackers. I don't know. CJ probably could do it.
I
Raylan,
think Raylan. I think Raylan if you choose a linebacker.
yeah. Uh,
You know what
but
though? It kind of reminds me, Israel, when you look back to listen. In no way, shape, or form am I comparing these teams to the 21 defense and shit like that.
mm,
There's no way I can do this. I will say conceptually though, if you looked at that 21 defense, there was a leader for every level of that defense.
yeah, it was.
And now I'm not. And listen, leaders aren't. Not everybody is a leader. You're not. Not
Nah.
everybody is, and that's okay. You have to understand that. But we were blessed to have those kind of leaders at every level, and really the self accountability, right? The accountability, the self policing, right? We didn't necessarily see that last year, or it wasn't as clear if it was there, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know you said Dalen Everett,
I like
but
that.
no, yeah, you said Dalen Everett.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going on defense. I'm going Christian Miller.
I was about to say that, Dave. I was about to say that.
We know that he can have that kind of open personality and kind of be a funny guy.
Mm-hmm.
But guess who else was funny but was also a leader of that team in 2021? Jordan Davis.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, I'm not comparing these two. I'm comparing the personalities. You can be a leader but still have fun and be funny. Christian seems to be that kind of guy where he seems to be funny.
That's kind of like Nolan Smith, the personality. Yeah.
So for me, we know that he can be one of the better defensive linemen that we're going to have, right? But I think his leadership is what we could be needing more than his talent alone too. So I would say that if I had to go to a different level, I would say Raylan Wilson. I think CJ could, but I just think Raylan Wilson has this kind of Raylan Wilson out of high school and Raylan Wilson in college. To me, you can see the more professionalized, settling down, getting to business. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think that's beneficial because I think you need that, right? CJ's kind of like that too. CJ's extremely smart, athletic. I just get this feeling that Raylan could kind of be that guy, and you won't even realize it until it happens.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm with you though. Dalen Everett in that secondary would be fun to see that happen too. It would not surprise me if KJ kind of took on a leadership role.
Yeah, I can see that. I was just gonna give KJ another year.
Yeah,
yeah.
Because to keep it, you don't have Dan Jackson there.
No, you don't.
Right? You don't have Dan Jackson there. So that's so he's kind of that kind of guy, really. You've got the transfers coming in, but again, that they may be experienced from a football perspective, but they're not.
But they don't have no
culture of the team.
Yeah, they don't know the culture, and
I'm not saying they can't come in and do that. I want that to be clear too.
Yeah.
They could. I just don't see that as much. I think you're going to have the guys that have been there, like a Dalen Everett, or Raylan, Christian Miller. Those would be the three. I would probably say Christian the most, but that's just me. I want to ask the same question, but on offense. Who on offense do you think starts to kind of be that captain that we need?
Well, you're going to want the quarterback to be one.
I think that's a given for sure. But
yeah, but just somebody else from I think Bobo's son, he might have to step up and be, I don't know his personality.
Israel, I don't think a lot of people think about that.
Mm-hmm.
Don't, because think about it. Offensive line, you felt that Tate was the guy, but he's not there. Could Michael Morris do that? I don't know. Do you look at Ernest Green, right? So you think Drew Bobo might be that guy?
He's gonna. With him having to call out certain things, and him being the center has to be. It's just, he's got to. The center got to be one of the guys that's got to be like a captain on that offense.
At least. From a X's and O's at the worst.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna one up you. I think you look at a guy like Oscar Delp.
Mm-hmm.
I think you look at a guy like Oscar Delp to kind of take over and do that. It also wouldn't surprise me if Cash Jones
Oh
did
yeah,
too.
I like
I mean,
that.
he's been there. Now, to be fair, is he the best running back we have from a receiving standpoint? Probably, but I still think his leadership can be shown there too. But I just get this feeling that Oscar Delp could be that guy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like when you kind of envision that, I could see that. I feel like that could be there. When I look at receivers, part of me wonders if Dylan Bell could be that guy, but I felt like if he was going to, he would have done that last year. And I didn't see it
Yeah,
as much.
I think
Not saying he can't.
his confidence was shaken. Yeah, he didn't. His confidence was shooken like crazy last year. I don't know if he. I'm hoping he can rebound, man, because he didn't have a good year.
Yeah,
He
I mean,
just
considering the standards that we put on him from years prior, for sure.
and all the hype of and of what they thought he was going to be in the offense, and it just didn't turn out to be
Yeah, no,
there.
that's 100% accurate too there. Um, but yeah, no, I think ultimately, right? I think what we want to see is the quarterback kind of be that offensive leader, right? But part of me does wonder with the inexperience, will any kind of inexperience play a role into lack of leadership? I don't necessarily know. And I don't think so, because a good quarterback, whether inexperienced or not, will lead your team regardless.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happens. So I think the kind of slam dunk is the quarterback. But if it were to be somebody else, I think Drew Bobo makes sense. And I think for me, Oscar Delp makes sense too. Um, when it
Yeah,
comes to that. Henry Dion says Jazier Jackson is his breakout player prediction. That
mm,
is a very good call.
yeah,
Very good call. Because, to be fair, when he came in last season, or this past season, if you noticed in the Clemson game,
yeah. I
he was
saw
at the
that.
twos. He was with
Hmm.
the twos.
Yeah,
So part of me wonders, could we see some moves being made with him at a tackle spot? I'm telling you, if you were to give me Monroe Freeling at left and Jazier or Ja Jackson at
hmm,
right, I think that would be a good situation. I do,
yeah,
because in my opinion, Ernest Green is going to play NFL. He's going to play in the league, but he's going to play as a guard. Get some guard tape put out there. Slide in, right? Him and Micah sliding in. I
hmm,
think you do that right there. I think you have Drew Bobo, and then I think you have Jazier Jackson and Monroe Freeling. That's just, to me, that would be my ideal offensive line setup.
yeah.
I
I think
do
that.
get this. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying. I think that. I think you're right about Ernest Green because he really don't have the arms to be a tackle.
We see, like, I think
It's,
what we saw last season with him was the right person can just get past you based off of things that you have no control over, your size.
hmm.
You're not as long,
He's
right?
just not. He's not long. You're right.
So you have to play perfect technique. And even then you are kind of suspect of possibly getting beat just based off of God given things that you have no control over. So if you side in, you can, I think he'll be better off suited there. I just also think that what you could see is Ernest and Freeling at tackles, right? Because to be fair, that opens up Calhoun as well, Daniel Calhoun, and I'm excited for that too. And
Yeah.
when you start to talk about offensive line, you don't really see as much. I think it's because it's not as flashy, but it'll be interesting to see what Daniel Calhoun does this season.
And then
I think he plays some significant
and
snaps.
where's Easley, and then you
Bo
got
Hughley,
Gaston.
you got
Mm,
Gaston, you got Bo
yeah,
Hughley as well. Jamal
yeah.
Merriweather is another name. There's several
It's
there.
a lot of problems. There's some problems, man. There's some problems,
Yeah, Well, keep in mind this: we can love or you can hate Truss, but one of the things that Truss was able to do was be very versatile along the offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
And so now, whether you loved him or hate him, you don't have that versatility that that you could do that with. So, could you see an Ernest Green take over like that? Move in for say Micah or Calhoun when needed a break, slide in, and then allow a guy like Jaw Jackson, or whoever you want at the tackle spot to come in and get them reps. I think that's something that needs to be contemplated. I think it will be given a look. And it makes sense for me to use Ernest Green as that guy because he is experienced. He knows that situation. And it's also, again, giving him the opportunity to put some guard tape on film, right? It's putting some guard film out there. Because that's going to, in my opinion, that will, if he does well at guard, that will bolster his stock.
Mm-hmm.
You're not, I would not expect at the NFL level to play tackle. I wish you could, but I just get this feeling from a business point of view, they will draft you as a guard. And I think you could be a viable guard. I really do. But I think we need to see that. And I think he could be that Ernest Green chest, that kind of like that real serviceable piece. You need that. You do. We were fortunate to have Truss doing it. Well, like I said, whether you like it or hate it, the ability to allow him to move around and put in guys in situations or give guys breathers, that's key. And, some people aren't fortunate to have that. Some people have to play the 5, and that's about it.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at with that right there. All right. Well, we've talked a lot of breakout candidates. Who is the ultimate? Who is the prediction for you? The whole team. Who is your breakout candidate for Georgia in 2025? If you had to choose one.
Ooh.
We named a lot.
It's got to be KJ Bolden.
Okay. So I guess taking on that leadership role and breaking out in that way.
Yeah.
I'm not mad about that.
I'm thinking with him, with this year being a sophomore coming in, it's a possibility he could be an All-American at that position.
I feel you there. Part of me wants to go on the offensive side of the ball, but my heart's telling me I need to go defense. I'll give you my answer, but I want to preface it by saying this is a very hard decision. I'm going Quintavious.
You high on Quinn, man? I'm high on him too.
I just think it's a necessity that he has to break out.
Yeah.
My offensive pick, I was looking at Nate Frazier. You need a running back.
Yeah.
You need that running back to break out because Georgia cannot have another year offensively running the ball like that and expect to do anything with it.
And I like Nate Frazier too. I just think that if you're just looking at the entire team, a breakout player would be someone that that actually made an All-American team. To me,
you're not wrong. Mm-hmm. That's where I was thinking. Like, if Nate Frazier is the breakout guy, that will solve a lot of Georgia's offensive inefficiencies. It will.
Yeah.
But the reason why I'm going Quintavious Johnson is because, one, the edge position is so thin with inexperience. Talented as all hell, but inexperience is the main key there. And we know how important the edge play is. You keep in mind, you're losing 3 guys to the NFL. 2 of them are going to be first rounders, by the way.
Mm-hmm. And then we lost some depth in the portal. So
yes, nobody was expecting to lose. Well, you lose Mpemba and Damon Wilson.
Yeah, that was, and then They were
You've
like
got Gabe
guys.
Harris. You've got Gabe Harris as your true experienced edge, but even then, it wasn't as experienced as you would really want, right? Because you had Damon Wilson. Now, to be fair, I genuinely think Gabe Harris can be a game changer.
Yeah.
I think he can. But part of me just gets this feeling that Quintavious is going to step into a position of need where we need somebody to play extremely well, and I think he can do that. However, I am extremely excited to see how much run Isaiah Gibson gets at this year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you look at Chase, you look at the edges that we brought in as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be interesting to see how much run and how much rotation we do there at the edge. But again, my candidate, Quintavious Johnson, freakazoid.
Yeah, I mean, when you see, I seen him play at Mays High School, and just watching him play both sides of the. I mean, the guy was
He was
playing
quarterback,
quarterback.
wasn't
Yeah,
he?
the guy was playing quarterback, man.
Crazy.
I mean, this guy was actually playing quarterback and taking over games with his legs. You know.
Crazy. But again, I mean, you saw 33 step on the field this year, and it's like, Jesus Christ. Who the fuck is that? That's another thing, though. When you saw the reserve guys come in, that you look at guys like Jaw Jackson, right on the offensive line, it stands out. You're like, Jesus. Quintavious was like that on the line. He's standing up. You're like, good Lord. But then if you really think about it, like when Ellis and DeMello were there, and you look at the corner spot, you're like, dude, that looks like Georgia DB right there. That's a true Georgia DB. That just looks like one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Quintavious fits the measurable category easily. I just want to see him produce. I think a lot of Georgia fans had their moments with Chaz Chambliss, but keep in mind his IQ is going to be missed. You can say what you want, but his IQ will be missed. I think that's something that we're going to have to get familiar with. So one of those guys, whether it be Gabe, Quintavious, whoever, going to have to learn a lot fast.
Yeah, because
either way, though, I think there's a lot. I think there's a lot of room for growth in this season, right? Like I said, you lose a lot of guys to the NFL, to the portal, whatever it may be. But it's not like you're losing talent. Like you are moving talent up. If you're not sitting there putting depth pieces in, you're right. Like you're not doing that as much. You've got inexperience, but by God, you've got some athletic freaks that could come out and play.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see what that looks like. Now we're moving on. Super Bowl, Chiefs and Eagles. Chiefs and Eagles. We're going to do a prediction, but I want to talk about this. How does it feel looking around the NFL and knowing that basically every single year somebody that was a former Georgia Bulldog is going to get a ring?
What is that, 24 straight years, ain't it?
Sounds about right to me.
Yeah.
That sounds about right. Obviously, listen, you got Malik Herron, you got McCole Hardman for the Chiefs. Geez, you got half the damn 21 defense for the Eagles, right? Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Nakobe, Keeley, Seen.
Mm-hmm.
Who else am I missing? I'm missing somebody else, I think. Why?
Nolan Smith.
That's it, Nolan Smith. I knew I was missing somebody. You got 6 of them, I think 6. But I don't know if you heard it or not. Did you hear what Jalen Hurts was talking about?
About the leaders on the defense?
About the leaders for the defense.
Mm-hmm.
That we talked about this earlier. It just shows you how different these guys are. When you look at Nolan Smith, you look at Jordan Davis, you look at Nakobe. It's hard to replace that.
Well,
it's not just talent. It's not just talent.
Yeah.
It's leadership. That leadership is evident. We, as Georgia fans, we saw it week in and week out. We saw it.
Yeah.
Visibly on the field. All right, we saw that with Channing. We saw that even in the championship game. Just Nakobe getting on to Channing, Channing
Mm-hmm.
following up with a sack. Right, those moments like that right there kind of mold the culture for Georgia and the expectations. Right, but it's to me it's even better to hear about that at the next level, because you're taking something that was, the culture within Georgia is now getting applied on a professional scale, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that's just interesting, completely interesting to see, and it actually be successful. You know what I'm saying? I think that's a testament to Kirby. Probably Nick Saban behind that, but you get what I'm saying. It's just, I don't know. I'm not much of an NFL guy, but it's just fun to see those guys being leaders
Yeah.
and making plays too. Making plays.
Yeah.
Now, my question to you is this: we're gonna talk ball now. How do you think these guys do, specifically Georgia players? How do you think they do uh, in the game?
Uh,
Well,
I think
Nakobe's out.
yeah, Nakobe's
Nakobe's
out.
out.
And yeah, Nakobe's out. I know. Well, just I don't know about Jalen Carter because they're saying he's sick or something. He might not play, or I don't know. But
Mm-hmm.
Nolan Smith been playing real good. I know he's broken the Eagles' record for like sacks in the playoffs or something like that.
Wow.
And, yeah, I don't know, man. I see them making some plays. I don't know how many people are out injured
Yeah.
or sick because I know they said like 4 or 5 guys are sick, maybe even
Mm-hmm.
6.
But to me, it sounds like they've been all over the field throughout this playoff run. They've been everywhere
Mm-hmm.
from what I'm hearing and what I've seen a little bit. They seem to be all over the place making
Yeah,
plays.
they do. They make plays. They definitely making plays.
Just kind of look back on it when I think it was Nolan. I believe, yeah, I think it was Nolan. When Nolan and the GM were talking, I remember hearing that conversation about, the GM talking about, him being a Florida Gator and how much it hurts him to draft a Georgia Bulldog, but he wants to win. And I was just like, that's what the hell I'm talking about right there. That sounded good. But it's just fun to see them on the Super Bowl stage now too, man. It's like, you've got the defensive guys, right? And really led that. I mean, you've got Saquon Barkley, right, as a huge storyline there on the offensive side of the ball too. But
Mm-hmm.
I think the defense, I mean, for us as Georgia fans, we've really been honed in on the Eagles' defense because that's really just an extension of the 21 defense for Georgia. Obviously, you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But then you're going up against a possible three-peat with the Kansas City Chiefs and everything. And again, you've still got McCole Hardman and Malik Herring there. I don't think Malik is starting. I think he's playing possibly. I haven't
Yeah.
really kept up with it as much, but I know McCole still plays.
Yeah.
And it seems like, if I'm not mistaken, he scored the winning touchdown, was it
Yeah.
last year?
Last year in the Super Bowl,
Yeah.
exactly.
So
Yeah.
that was fun to see too. That was fun to see. Because, it's one of those things when like, when you create history in that way, being kind of seeing that and watching that is it's awesome to watch. Now, to be fair, it's not as many Georgia players on Kansas City.
Uh-uh.
So I need to ask this. Let's make our predictions. Who do you have winning the Super Bowl?
Oh boy, this is one of them ones. Uh, it's almost. It's hard, man. It's hard. It's a hard one, but I kind of want. It's hard for me to go against the Chiefs, man. And it's just the way that the NFL loves them. They just love them, man. I mean, they're like the Patriots of old, you know. And you know how it was going against Tom Brady in the playoffs. And it's like we doing this over again with Patrick Mahomes. It's like you got to beat them. You just got to beat them, man. I wouldn't bet against them. I want to see the dogs, them Eagles win. I would love to see them win, but it's hard to go against Pat, man. It
Yeah,
just,
it's a team game, right? We look
yeah.
at this. We look at it as being a team game, and Mahomes has seemed to create magic when they're needed the most.
Yeah, yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
However,
Mhm.
the Eagles defense has also done that too, and stood up and made defensive stops in crucial moments, stifling offenses throughout the entire game. Right? I think they played the Commanders, I think it was, and just beat the bejesus out of them. I think he dropped a 50 piece on them, if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm. But
Like,
see, the key to me with the Eagles defense is Jalen Carter. Is he going to be able to play?
yeah, if he's able to play, I think that's going to easily benefit them a lot. It's going to be a huge piece
Hmm.
to have, I think, too. When I look at the Chiefs, though, this is what concerns me. And it's not even as much to me, Pat Mahomes, more so than that defense and what they can do to neutralize Saquon if they can. If they can slow him down, I will say Steve Spagnuolo is an excellent defensive coordinator, and he will dial up pressure. And how will he manage that with Jalen Hurts? I think that could be the matchup for me that I'm looking at the most. It's the Chiefs defense versus Hurts,
Hmm.
and what schematically you can do to neutralize Saquon while also getting pressure on Hurts. The good thing about the Eagles, though, is offensively, they've got weapons too. Because Hurts can run the ball if needed. But Saquon, and they're going to try, I guarantee they're going to have to slow him down. Can they? We'll see. I think they have a good
Hmm.
shot at it. I like Chris Jones, by the way. Chris Jones, the defensive tackle for the Chiefs,
But
he's good.
yeah, yeah. But I'm gonna tell you another key that for the Eagles to win this game, man. And they're gonna need Barkley to be exceptionally good in this Super Bowl for them to win. I just don't, he's gonna have to keep Jalen Hurts from being in those certain situations, where he has to throw that ball on third and long.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you don't want him, you don't want to have to leave it in his hands to win the football game. That's just me.
Yeah. If the excuse me, I'm gonna ask you this question for both teams. If the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, who is the MVP and why?
Well, for me, if the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, it's gonna be Patrick Mahomes. Uh, it's just gonna take. He's just gonna have to play good for them to win too. But I just don't see nobody else winning the MVP but him. That's just me.
I'm in agreement. I'm in agreement with you there. The only issue, the only situation I could see where it's anything outside of him is if their defense is just too dominant.
Yeah.
Then I think you look at a guy like Chris,
Hmm.
something like that. But
Yeah.
I think you're right in that sense that it's probably going to be Pat if the Chiefs win.
Because you do got two top 10 defenses out here. I mean, the Eagles,
Mm-hmm.
we know they're the number one defense, but Kansas City has a top 10 defense too. So,
Yeah, yeah. No, I would probably say Pat as well. But if it's not Pat and the game is more of a defensive game, right, where the defense just dominates, I would probably say Chris Jones would just get my kind of pick for that.
hmm
If the Eagles win the Super Bowl, who is your MVP pick and why?
me, I've already said it. For them to win, Barkley has to be exceptional. That's just me. I think
Yeah,
he will be the MVP if they win.
yeah. I think MVP. I would say Barkley too.
Hmm
But I'm going to throw out a separate category here and call the X factor for the win. Might not, what that means is he might not be the MVP, but he could make the difference in a win or a loss.
Yeah.
And I'm going Nolan Smith because
Okay.
of his ability to get after the quarterback and tackle the quarterback, sack the quarterback. You have to get him down. You have to get Pat down. He's super shifty. He's very shifty. Saw that against the Bills, right? He made a few guys miss on some crazy looking.
I think his first 5 runs were all over 10 yards every time he took off.
Yeah. And a lot of the times when he runs, it kind of looks like it's a broken play from a protection standpoint. And so he evades and gets out of the pocket and then just takes what the defense is giving him. And that's a sign of a good quarterback. But I just get this feeling Nolan Smith could be an X factor for me if the Eagles were to win, because it's just ability to get to the quarterback. To be fair, you mentioned Jalen Carter. If he plays, his disruption can be another thing, if you will. I just get that feeling that edge pressure is going to be key here. And getting
it better be.
If they're going to win defensively, I think that's how you have to do it. But I think you're right. Offensively, I do think Saquon has to have a good game. And honestly, it might be a Jalen Hurts style to Devontae Smith or AJ. It might be one of those games too, because I'm telling you, Spagnuolo knows Barkley is going to get the ball. So they're going to stifle the run. That's what they're going to shut. They're going to do that first, in my opinion. Once they do that, I think what you're going to see is they'll try to send some pressures and blitzes to get to Hurts. So it might be Hurts being the X factor on offense, even though we think it should be Barkley. I just get this feeling the game could come down to how Hurts plays. Do you have a score prediction for this game? If I tried to give you a score prediction, I was probably going to be completely wrong, but we'll do it.
I think it's 31-27 Chiefs.
I'm trying to take my heart out of this and use my head, because my heart would tell me 30-24 Eagles. That's my heart, but my head tells me 24-21 Chiefs. I just think Pat gets for some reason I get this feeling where
I already know what you're going to say.
Pat will do this. I will do this last minute drive to kick a field goal and win the game with Harris, with Bucker. You see what I'm saying? He is, to me, just watching him, maybe not even as much as watching it every week. The games that I've watched where they've been close, it doesn't bother him. He's not phased, whether it's on the road or at home. It doesn't bother him. He's probably one of the best of the generation, honestly.
Yeah, he is.
So to me, if you give him do you remember when we gave CJ Stroud a little bit over a minute in the Peach Bowl? Anytime Pat gets the ball with that much time, that's what it feels like. I feel like. It doesn't matter the defense, in my opinion. I mean, Ravens had a good defense, didn't matter. Bills I thought, a decent defense, don't matter. Eagles you said you got the number 1 defense. We'll see. But I'm just saying it would be extremely rewarding for me to watch the Eagles win. And I know it's going to pain Keon to hear this, but watching them dogs raise up the trophy that would be rewarding to me. Keon would hate to hear that, though. It's just because it's Eagle green. But I don't care about what color they wear. I don't care what team. I just know they're former Georgia players.
Yeah.
So I've got 24-21 Chiefs. You've got 31-27 Chiefs.
Uh-huh.
Okay. There are the predictions for the Super Bowl here. You've heard a lot. If you've stuck with us this long, you've heard our breakout candidates. You've heard Super Bowl talk. You've heard the predictions, and I think now it's time to ride off into the sunset and we wait to watch the Super Bowl. What say you there? What do you think? That sounds like it's a good time to end on that note, I think.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh man. Anyways, make sure to hit the like, follow, subscribe button. If you're listening on Apple Podcast, Spotify, make sure to rate us and review us. It's free. Do that for us. DGDpod.com. There's where you get all your information you need. Do that for us. Israel, again, sir, happy birthday.
Appreciate it. Appreciate everybody in the
Georgia
chat for the birthday wishes. I appreciate it.
Enjoyed the conversation and discourse. Glad to have you on for the first time. Thought that was fun too.
Yeah. Gotta get up, I gotta come back. Maybe with you and Keon on here and we talk some dogs in here.
I got to get Keon on here first. We'll make it happen.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah. No, other than that, though, man, tell people if they want to follow you, man. Where can they do that? How can they do that?
Well, Yliyah, Liyah, Yisrael, YSRA, YL. You can use that on Facebook. I'm on all the social media platforms, Twitter, and Instagram, the same name. You can
Here's what
follow
we'll
me.
do. For those that don't want to take the time to listen to him spell it out, just look in the links below. It'll be in the description below. How about that? But there's how you do it. Israel, thanks again, sir, for your time. Had a good time talking, man. But it's time we send this off and get ready for the Super Bowl tomorrow.
All righty.
With that being said, folks, that's all we've got for this episode of the DGD podcast. We hope you have a great rest of your weekend. We hope you have a good time watching with your family, with your friends, the Super Bowl. When whether you listen to this before or after, hopefully you enjoy your time, with family and friends during the Super Bowl. And with that being said, that's all we've got for this episode. I'm Robert Reynolds. That's Israel. We will catch y'all next time. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.